So here's the question. Can the Brexit Party win a general election? Well, I think they can, yes, and this video explains why I think that's the case. Let's get into it. So what would the Brexit Party actually need to do to win a general election? The Brexit Party's core vote and primary target voters are those 17.4 million people who voted to leave the EU in 2016. At least that's what I think is a really helpful way to think about it. You'll start to see why shortly, I hope, but essentially these are broadly the people most likely to vote for the Brexit Party. Let's look at a timeline from the Brexit Party launch up until the Peterborough by-election and try and figure out what proportion of those voters voted for the Brexit Party and therefore roughly where they're at now. The Brexit Party launched on the 12th of April. They didn't field any candidates in the local elections, so we can't see what proportion of Leave voters voted for them. But we can see that the Conservatives and Labour lost in equal proportion, with a 7% swing away from them compared to the local elections in 2018. So that was before the Prime Minister announced her Chequers proposal, and we all started to realise that she had no intention of delivering anything remotely like Brexit. The Lib Dems, the Greens and lots of independents all increased their share of the vote as a consequence. In the EU parliamentary elections, the Brexit Party got 5.25 million votes, which equates to just over 30% of those 17.4 million who voted to leave. Then the Prime Minister resigned on the 24th of May, and then a couple of weeks later, the Brexit Party candidate in Peterborough, Mike Green, got 9,801 votes and very nearly won the seat, which equates to roughly 30% of Leave voters who voted for him. Turnout at a general election would typically have been higher, so it might realistically have been over 40% of Leave voters in that scenario. It makes you wonder, if the PM hadn't pre-announced her resignation before that vote, I think Mike Green probably would have won, to say nothing of the alleged vote rigging in the election. At this point, it's worth bearing in mind that the reason that the Brexit Party, only a few weeks old, was able to come within a whisker of winning in Peterborough is not just because they had a great candidate and a solid campaign on the ground, but it's also partly because, number one, it was a strong Leave voting seat. 63% of voters voted to leave in Peterborough in 2016. And number two, the constituency was a marginal constituency. In 2017, Labour won roughly 48% of the vote and the Conservatives 47%. It's much more difficult to win in seats where another party has a far larger proportion of the vote, but when the vote is split, there's the opportunity for the Brexit Party to come through the middle and win. Now the next question is, what proportion of the Brexit Party's core and primary target voters would they have to get to vote for them in a general election? Well, I have a database that stores data on every parliamentary constituency in the country and allows me to throw all kinds of scenarios at it and get results back. Using that database, I've taken the results of the 2017 general election and I've looked at a very simple scenario for the next general election. I've assumed that the results are the same as in 2017, except that the Brexit Party win votes from the other parties in direct proportion to those other parties' share of the vote in each constituency as it was in 2017. So this is a very simplistic scenario. It's not going to give us a really accurate prediction of what would happen, but it will give a sense of the dynamics at play. Here's an example constituency. It was a strongly Leave voting seat in 2016 and had a very strong Labour majority in 2017. This constituency is Yvette Cooper's constituency in the north of England. So let's see what happens here. There's the 2017 results. And we're going to assume that 45% of Leave voters in the constituency come out for the Brexit Party. So there's the result. The Brexit Party win a strong Labour voting seat with a small majority of 37 votes. But now you can probably see the limitations of the simple assumption this is based on. As things stand currently, the Lib Dems vote would probably be in reality increased considerably, and the UKIP vote would decline much more. There are lots and lots of variables and they're constantly shifting as political parties reposition for advantage. So again, this model really just illustrates the dynamics at play and starts to give you a mental model so you can get a better grasp on the whole thing. And the more you tweak the assumptions, the more accurate your predictions are likely to get. For the sake of completeness, let's look at how the results work out when we look at the impact in every one of the 650 constituencies across the country. If 40% of the Leave vote were to come out and vote for the Brexit Party, they win 8 seats in Parliament. At 50%, they win 79 seats. Now, depending on the shares of the vote across the other parties, this could mean they realistically hold the balance of power, either in a coalition or in some kind of arrangement such as that the Democratic Unionists have currently with the Conservatives. That would be a win. As we get above 60%, the Brexit Party are getting close to winning a majority. At 64%, they have a majority of 1 seat. There are 650 seats in Parliament, so 326 is a majority. And at 65%, they have a majority of 44, which is a realistic working majority, enough to govern effectively. From beyond that point, the majority gets bigger, and bigger, and bigger still. But what happens if, seeing this challenge approaching, the Lib Dems and Labour form an alliance, an electoral pact, or even merge with a pledge to remain in the EU? How could the Brexit Party win then? What happens if the Conservatives deliver Brexit before a general election anyway? How can the Brexit Party win after that? And another question, can the Conservatives actually deliver a full, clean Brexit? And are they even proposing to do so? These questions and more are the subjects of future videos. If you'd like to ensure that you get to see our future videos, you can follow us on Twitter or on Facebook, but be sure to select See First, or the chances are you may not see the videos in your newsfeed. Or to be sure you don't miss anything, subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the bell icon. That way you'll get a notification by email as soon as a new video is available. In the meantime, please do help us out and like and share or retweet this post on your social media channel so your friends and followers can see it too. Thanks for watching. See you next time.